Welcome, listener, a deep dive into how to have confidence and power in dealing with people by Les Giblin. Les Giblin's How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People, first published in 1956, is a timeless guide to mastering human relations, a skill Giblin deems essential for success and happiness. Drawing from years of experience in human relations clinics and real-life observations, Giblin argues that our ability to interact effectively with others determines roughly 85% of our success in any endeavor and nearly all of our personal happiness. The book rejects superficial gimmicks, instead offering tested principles grounded in an understanding of human nature. In this narrative summary, we'll explore the first 3 chapters in depth, where Giblin lays the groundwork for his philosophy, and then provide a concise overview of the remaining sections. Chapter 1. Your Key to Success and Happiness. Giblin opens with a bold assertion. The single most critical factor in achieving success and happiness is our ability to deal with other people. He cites compelling evidence, such as a Carnegie Institute of Technology study, showing that 85% of success stems from personality factors, specifically human relations skills, while only 15% comes from technical ability. Similarly, a Harvard study of fired employees revealed that for every person dismissed due to incompetence, 2 were let go for failing to get along with others. These statistics underscore Giblin's central thesis. No matter your profession or goals, other people are the common denominator to your achievements. Giblin challenges the notion that merely getting along is enough. He paints a vivid picture of 2 extremes: the timid Casper Milquetoast, who avoids conflict by letting others dominate, and the tyrannical dictator who forces compliance. Neither approach brings true satisfaction. Real human relations, he argues, involve preserving both your ego and those of others, a delicate balance that yields mutual benefit. For example, he notes that the happiest and most successful people we know aren't necessarily the smartest or most skilled, but those who have a way with others. Think of a charismatic salesperson who outsells a more knowledgeable peer simply because they connect with customers effortlessly. The chapter also addresses why so many fail, up to 90% in some studies, due to poor human relations. Giblin illustrates this with a modern twist. In Davy Crockett's era, survival depended on individual prowess, like shooting a bear. Today, however, whether Mrs. Giblin enjoys a steak dinner hinges on her rapport with the butcher and her husband's workplace interactions. Technical skill alone isn't enough. Human engineering trumps it. He cites Purdue University's study of engineering graduates. Those with top grades earned only slightly more than the lowest performers, but those adept at social interaction outearned both groups by 15 to 33%. This drives home the point that personality, defined as the ability to interest and serve others, is the real game changer. Giblin concludes by promising tested methods over gimmicks. He likens human relations to playing a piano. Mastering basic principles allows you to handle any situation, just as a pianist uses 88 keys to play countless melodies. The chapter ends with a nutshell summary, emphasizing that personality problems, like shyness or bossiness, are fundamentally human relations issues, solvable through skill, not superficial tricks. Chapter 2. How to Use the Basic Secret for Influencing Others. In Chapter 2, Giblin unveils what he calls the basic secret for influencing people, understanding and feeding the human ego. He begins with striking examples of ego's power. A man strangles a woman who falls asleep during his story, and a buck-toothed teenager robs a gas station to prove his worth to mocking peers. These extremes highlight a universal truth. People will go to extraordinary lengths to protect their sense of self-worth. Ego, often vilified as conceit, is reframed as a divine spark, per Edward Bach, or human dignity, an innate drive that demands respect. Giblin lists 4 facts of life about human nature. We're all egotists, primarily interested in ourselves, craving importance, and seeking approval. He argues that this ego hunger isn't a flaw but a natural instinct, akin to physical hunger. When unsatisfied, it turns mean, much like a starving dog becomes aggressive. Clinical psychologists, he notes, have debunked the old idea that egotists suffer from too much self-esteem. Rather, it's too little that makes them difficult. A person with high self-esteem is generous and tolerant, while low self-esteem breeds pettiness and hostility. To illustrate, Giblin introduces LS/MFD. Low self-esteem means friction and trouble. He recounts General Pershing's gracious response to a private's brusque order, unthreatened because his ego was secure, contrasting it with the insecure bully who belittles others to feel big. The solution? Help the other fellow like himself better. Genuine praise, not flattery, satisfies ego hunger, turning lions into lambs. For instance, Giblin shares how he secured a hotel room during a crowded convention by appealing to the clerk's problem-solving ability. If anyone can lick this, it's you. The clerk, ego-boosted, found a creative solution, a conference room turned bedroom. This principle scales universally. General Oglethorpe persuaded the King of England to fund Georgia by suggesting it be named after him, appealing to royal pride when logic failed. Giblin urges readers to give others personal reasons to act, enhancing their egos rather than demanding compliance. The chapter's essence is clear. Satisfy others' need for self-esteem, and they'll naturally become more cooperative, proving that ego isn't the enemy, it's the key. Chapter 3. How to cash in on your hidden assets. Chapter 3 builds on this egocentric foundation, presenting a wealth we all possess, the ability to make others feel important. Giblin likens this to a butcher's popularity during wartime meat shortages. Everyone craves something scarce, and we all hold the food of recognition. This universal hunger for appreciation doesn't discriminate by status. Even the famous need it. He cites a diplomatic incident where a foreign premier walked out after being kept waiting, not because his time was so precious, but because his dignity was slighted. Giblin advises giving away this wealth freely, not as a bribe, but as a sincere gift. It costs nothing, yet returns manifold benefits, like bread cast upon waters. He offers 3 practical ways to make people feel important. 1. Think they are important. 2. Notice them. And 3. Don't lord it over them. These aren't abstract ideals, but actionable steps rooted in everyday interactions. For example, under Think Other People Are Important, Giblin suggests a mindset shift. Instead of viewing a waiter as a servant, see him as a professional worthy of respect. This attitude subtly influences your behavior, earning better service. Notice other people means acknowledging their presence, greeting a doorman by name, or complimenting a cashier's efficiency. Giblin shares how he once praised a taxi driver's knowledge of shortcuts, sparking a friendly chat and smoother ride. Finally, don't lord it over people, warns against condescension. He recalls a manager who bragged about outsmarting staff, only to lose their loyalty. Contrast this with a leader who humbly credits team efforts, fostering goodwill. These methods tap into hidden assets we overlook, like courtesy and attention, which Giblin ties to ego feeding from Chapter 2. The chapter's points to remember reinforce simplicity. Everyone hungers for recognition, and you can satisfy it effortlessly by adjusting your perspective and actions. The result? Smoother relations and reciprocal benefits, proving these assets are both abundant and powerful. Chapter 4. How you can control the actions and attitudes of others. Les Giblin opens Chapter 4 with a provocative idea. You can steer the actions and attitudes of others not by force or manipulation, but by mastering the subtle art of emotional contagion and self-presentation. He begins with a core principle. People tend to mirror the attitudes you project. If you want someone to be calm, enthusiastic, or confident, you must first embody that state yourself. It's a psychological dance, where your steps set the rhythm for theirs. Giblin likens it to a conductor leading an orchestra. Your tone, posture, and energy orchestrate the response you get. He illustrates this with a vivid example. Imagine you're shouted at by an irate customer. The instinct is to shout back, escalating the tension. But Giblin advises the opposite. Lower your voice, stay composed, and watch the magic unfold. He recounts a story of a hotel clerk facing an angry guest over a booking error. Instead of matching the guest's fury, the clerk spoke softly, apologized sincerely, and offered a solution. Within minutes, the guest's rage melted into gratitude, and he even tipped the clerk. This, Giblin explains, is how you control anger in others, by refusing to fuel the fire. The principle holds universally. Enthusiasm is catching, too. A salesperson who exudes excitement about a product often ignites the same in a prospect, closing the deal faster than a dry pitch ever could. Confidence, Giblin asserts, breeds confidence. He shares an anecdote about a young manager tasked with leading a skeptical team. Nervous at first, he faked assurance, standing tall, speaking firmly, and soon found his team mirroring his poise, rallying behind him. For salesmen, this is money in the bank. Giblin cites a seasoned rep who, before every pitch, reminded himself, "They'll trust me if I trust myself," and consistently outperformed peers who hesitated. The lesson? Your inner belief radiates outward, shaping how others perceive and respond to you. But it's not just big emotions. Little things give you away, too. Giblin dives into the tattletale signals of personality: your walk, handshake, and voice. A brisk, purposeful stride signals energy. A limp handshake betrays uncertainty. A warm, steady tone conveys authority. He tells of a job candidate whose firm grip and clear "good morning" won over an interviewer before a word about qualifications was spoken. Conversely, a slouched, mumbling applicant was dismissed as unmotivated, despite a stellar resume. These micro-cues, Giblin argues, are your magnetism, the unspoken forces that draw or repel others. The chapter pivots to a powerful technique for improving performance: praise over punishment. Giblin rejects the old-school crack the whip approach, advocating instead for feeding egos with recognition. He recounts a factory supervisor who turned around a slacking worker not by scolding, but by praising a rare good day's output. "You really showed what you're capable of today." The worker, ego lifted, doubled his effort the next week. This aligns with Chapter 2's LS/MFD. Low self-esteem means friction and trouble boost their self-worth, and they'll naturally do better. Giblin's Chapter 4 in brief ties it together. Project the attitude you want, refine your presence, and use praise as your lever. Control follows effortlessly. Chapter 5. How you can create a good impression on other people. Chapter 5 shifts the lens to first impressions, the fleeting moments that can make or break your influence. Giblin starts with a bold directive: know what you want from the interaction, then sound off accordingly. If you aim to be liked, exude warmth. If it's respect, project competence. He paints a scene of two salespeople approaching a client. One, unsure of his goal, stumbles through small talk and leaves forgettable. The other, clear on securing a sale, opens with a confident, "I've got something you'll want to see," and hooks the client instantly. Clarity of intent, Giblin insists, shapes how others perceive you from the outset. First impressions, he argues, hinge on self-appraisal. People accept you at the value you place on yourself. He shares a story of a shy clerk who transformed her career by deciding to act as if she mattered. Previously overlooked, she began greeting customers with a bright, "How can I help you today?" and soon became the store's top performer, simply because she stopped undervaluing herself. Contrast this with a boastful executive Giblin knew, who alienated colleagues by overselling his importance. His inflated self-image backfired, creating a bad impression despite his skills. The takeaway? Confidence works, arrogance flops. Giblin then offers a gem: assume others will say yes to you. This isn't blind optimism, but a strategic mindset. He describes a door-to-door salesman who approached each house expecting a welcome. "I figured they'd be glad to see me," he told Giblin, and his relaxed assurance won over half his prospects, far more than a nervous peer who anticipated rejection. This assumption primes you to act naturally, not desperately, signaling trustworthiness. Giblin ties it to a personal experience. Needing a favor from a busy official, he strode in saying, "I knew you'd be the one to help," and got it. No groveling required. The chapter warns against unwitting missteps. Many sabotage themselves with hesitancy or aloofness, not realizing how it reads. Giblin recalls a man at a party who, trying to seem humble, barely spoke. Guests pegged him as dull, though he was brilliant. Meanwhile, a chatty woman, assuming everyone wanted her stories, left a glowing impression, despite less depth. It's not about faking it, Giblin clarifies, but projecting your best self intentionally. His Chapter 5 in a few words distills it. Define your goal, value yourself, expect acceptance, and impressions tilt in your favor. Chapter 6. How to use 3 big secrets for attracting people. Les Giblin kicks off Chapter 6 with a promise. Friendship isn't a mystery. It's a skill you can master with 3 simple yet profound secrets, which he dubs the AAA formula: acceptance, approval, and appreciation. He argues that people are drawn to those who make them feel valued, echoing the ego-feeding wisdom of Chapter 2. This isn't about manipulation. It's about genuinely meeting a universal human need, to be seen and liked for who we are. Giblin's tone is warm and practical, inviting us to see these as tools we already possess, just waiting to be wielded. The first, A, acceptance, sets the stage. Giblin explains that people crave unconditional regard, free of judgment. He illustrates this with a marital example. A husband who accepts his wife's quirks, like her tendency to overspend, strengthens their bond more than one who nags her into change. Acceptance, he notes, is a two-edged sword. It cuts both ways. By embracing others as they are, you free yourself from frustration, too. He shares a story of a factory worker whose gruff supervisor softened after the worker stopped resenting his temper and instead saw it as passion for the job. The result? A newfound camaraderie, proving acceptance disarms tension. Next comes approval, the second A. Giblin urges us to go beyond tolerance and actively affirm others' worth. He recounts a case of an incorrigible child, a boy who disrupted class until a teacher praised his knack for fixing things. That small approval turned him from troublemaker to helper, showing how it can redirect energy. Giblin suggests going out of your way to approve. Tell a coworker their report was sharp, or a friend their humor brightens your day. He recalls complimenting a barber's steady hand, sparking a chat that made every haircut a friendly ritual. Approval, he says, is a cure for low self-esteem, lifting spirits and loyalty alike. The third, A, appreciation, adds magic to the mix. Giblin insists we're all valuable to someone, and showing it singles people out from the crowd. He contrasts station-to-station talk, impersonal chatter, with person-to-person gratitude, like thanking a waiter by name for quick service. He shares a personal tale. Appreciating a neighbor's garden led to years of shared harvests, far beyond a casual, nice flowers. Nature, he muses, teaches this. Plants thrive under care, just as people bloom under recognition. Together, these A's form a formula that attracts others like moths to a flame, as Giblin's quick rundown confirms. Accept, approve, appreciate, and watch friendships grow. Chapter 7. How to make the other fellow feel friendly, instantly. Chapter 7 dives into the art of instant connection, with Giblin unveiling what he calls a magic switch for turning on friendly feelings. The assumption of friendliness, paired with a genuine smile. He starts with a personal anecdote. His college roommate, a lanky kid who won over strangers effortlessly. Giblin puzzled over this until he noticed the secret. The roommate approached everyone expecting a warm reception, fearlessly assuming they'd like him. Fear of rejection, Giblin realized, drives people away, while this bold friendliness pulls them in. It's a calculated risk, he admits. The odds favor a positive response if you take the lead. He illustrates with a striking example. A small boy selling pencils in Kansas City. When Giblin declined, the boy grinned and said, "Well, thank you very much anyway, sir." That unexpected warmth flipped the script. Giblin bought a pencil and watched the kid charm half a dozen more sales down the street. The lesson? Don't be an eager beaver begging for approval. Relax, assume you'll be liked, and let natural ease take over. Giblin contrasts this with a nervous salesman he knew, whose anxious hovering scared off clients, proving desperation repels while confidence attracts. Then comes the smile, Giblin's million-dollar asset. He insists a real smile, from way down deep, says, "I'm glad to see you," without words. He recounts a shy clerk who practiced smiling in a mirror until it became second nature. Soon, customers flocked to her counter, drawn by her glow. Smiles, he argues, work miracles, softening a stern boss or calming a tense meeting. He cites a test: smile at 10 strangers, and most will smile back, their mood visibly lifting. Giblin shares how he once diffused a grumpy waiter's attitude with a hearty, "Good to see you," and a grin, turning surly service into a pleasant meal. Developing this takes effort, he admits. Let go and smile. he urges, suggesting mirror practice to make it genuine. Not a forced grimace, but a reflection of inner warmth. He ties it to chapter 6 appreciation. A smile signals you value the other person, instantly forging a bond. The chapter 7 in summary encapsulates it. Assume friendliness, wield your smile, and others can't help but respond in kind. It's a fast track to rapport, rooted in the same ego-nourishing principles Giblin champions throughout. Chapter 8. How you can develop skill in using words. Les Giblin opens Chapter 8 with a bold claim. The one trait shared by nearly all successful people, be they CEOs, artists, or salespeople, is their ability to use words effectively. He frames conversation as the lifeblood of happiness and success, a skill that turns strangers into friends and ideas into action. Giblin's tone is encouraging, assuring us that this isn't an innate gift, but a craft anyone can hone. Words, he says, are your bridge to others. Build it well, and you'll cross any divide. He starts with the art of starting a conversation or striking it up. Giblin suggests simple openers that invite response, like asking a shop clerk, "How's business today?" He shares a memory of a train ride where he broke the ice with a fellow passenger by commenting, "This scenery sure beats the city, doesn't it?" A lively chat ensued, proving small talk can spark big connections. To keep it flowing, he introduces U-turns and green lights, phrases that pivot back to the other person or signal interest. When someone mentions a hobby, say, "How'd you get into that?" It's a green light, keeping them talking while you listen. Giblin warns of a deadly sin in human relations, hogging the spotlight. He recalls a dinner party where one guest droned on about his travels, oblivious to glazed eyes, while another deftly asked, "What's the best trip you've taken?" Shifting focus and winning the table's affection. Talk about yourself, Giblin advises, only when asked, and even then, keep it brief. He ties this to the magic of agreement, nodding along or saying, "I see your point," builds rapport fast. A salesman he knew doubled his closes by agreeing with a client's complaints about competitors, then gently steering to his product's strengths. The chapter's gem is happy talk, words that lift spirits. Giblin suggests replacing gloom with cheer. Instead of "what a rotten day," try "looks like the sun's fighting to break through." He shares how a gloomy coworker transformed team morale by adopting this habit. After griping about deadlines, he'd quip, "But we'll slay this beast together." Laughter followed, and so did cooperation. Giblin also proposes a quirky exercise. Write yourself a letter praising your best traits, then read it aloud. He tried it, penning, "Les, you've got a knack for making people laugh," and found it boosted his confidence before a tough meeting. Honesty matters, too. Giblin warns that friends won't always flag your flaws, like a monotone voice, so self-check. Record yourself, he suggests, or ask a trusted pal, "Do I ramble?" His short refresher sums it up. Start easy, listen more, agree often, spread joy, and refine your delivery. Words, wielded well, unlock doors, whether to a stranger's trust or a boss's ear. Chapter 9. How to use the technique that a Supreme Court justice called white magic. Chapter 9 shifts from speaking to its unsung twin, listening. Giblin quotes a Supreme Court justice who dubbed it white magic, a quiet power that outshines eloquence. He argues that listening makes you clever, not by dazzling others, but by letting them reveal what they want. People, he says, will hand you their desires on a platter if you just shut up and hear them out. It's a counterintuitive edge, less talk, more gain. Giblin illustrates with a salesman who struggled until he stopped pitching and started asking, "What's your biggest headache with this?" Clients spilled their woes, and he tailored solutions, doubling his sales. Listening, Giblin explains, shows respect, tying back to chapter 6 appreciation, while uncovering gold. He shares a personal tale. Needing a favor from a busy editor, he listened as the man vented about deadlines, then offered, "Sounds like you need an extra hand. How can I help?" The favor was granted, no arm twisting required. Too much talk, he warns, betrays you. Giblin recalls a nervous date who babbled about his job, missing cues she was bored, while a quiet listener at the same party won her over by nodding to her stories. Listening also cures self-consciousness. Focus on them, and your jitters fade. He cites a shy clerk who overcame awkwardness by asking customers about their day. Soon, she was the store's friendliest face, her confidence soaring. The chapter peaks with a financial twist. Listening can make you rich. Giblin tells of an entrepreneur who built a fortune by hearing factory workers' gripes about tools, then designing fixes they'd buy. Contrast this with a boss he knew, who ignored staff input and lost talent, to a rival who listened. Giblin offers 7 ways to practice. 1. Look at the speaker. 2. Lean in. 3. Ask questions. 4. Paraphrase. 5. Don't interrupt. 6. Stick to their topic. 7. Use silence. He tested these at a dinner, letting a guest ramble about fishing, echoing. So the big one got away? And earned a lifelong friend. His short refresher nails it. Listen actively, and people will tell you everything. Needs, dreams, solutions. It's not passive, it's strategic, a white magic that turns ears into influence. Giblin's examples, like the salesman or entrepreneur, show it's not just nice, it's profitable. Chapter 10. How to get others to see things your way. Quickly, Giblin launches Chapter 10 with a challenge. Forget the natural way of arguing, shouting matches, or stubborn standoffs, and embrace a smarter, subtler approach to persuasion. He argues that science, not instinct, holds the key, citing a study of 10,000 real arguments that revealed a startling truth. People don't yield to logic alone. They bend to emotions and ego. Winning, Giblin says, isn't about crushing the other side, but guiding them to your view with their dignity intact. It's low-pressure persuasion, working with human nature, not against it. He illustrates this shift with a common misstep: the boss who demands, "This is how it's done," and meets resistance, versus one who asks, "What do you think about trying it this way?" The latter wins buy-in because it respects the other's voice. Giblin shares a personal lesson from his human relations clinics. Early on, he'd argue to prove a point, only to lose the room's goodwill. Switching to gentle nudges, planting ideas, and letting others claim them, turned skeptics into allies. Science backs this, he notes. An analysis showed arguments won through empathy outpaced those won by force tenfold. The heart of the chapter lies in 6 tested rules for winning arguments. First, let him state his case. Giblin recalls a salesman facing a fuming client who hated a product's cost. Instead of interrupting, he listened fully, saying, "I hear you. Tell me more." The client vented, then softened, open to a counterpoint. Second, pause before you answer. A beat of silence, Giblin explains, cools tempers and signals respect. He once paused mid-debate with a colleague, letting tension dissipate, then calmly reframed the issue. Agreement followed. Third, don't insist on winning 100%. Giblin shares how he negotiated with a landlord over a lease hike, conceding a small increase to secure the space long-term, a partial win that felt mutual. Fourth, state your case moderately and accurately. Overblown claims backfire. He cites a politician who lost votes by exaggerating, while a rival's understated pitch swayed the crowd. Fifth, speak through third persons, saying, "A friend tried this and found," sidesteps confrontation. Giblin used this to convince a stubborn neighbor to trim a tree, noting, "Someone down the street had the same issue and fixed it this way." No ego bruised. Finally, let the other person save face. He tells of a manager correcting an employee's error not with "you messed up," but "this slipped by us. Let's fix it together." The worker stayed loyal, not humiliated. These rules, Giblin's Chapter 10 in a nutshell, asserts, tap the subconscious, aligning others with you quickly because they feel heard, not beaten. It's persuasion as partnership. Think of a parent coaxing a teen to study, not by lecturing, but by asking, "What's your plan for acing this?" and nodding along. Chapter 11. How to get 100% cooperation and increase your brain power. Chapter 11 pivots to leadership, with Giblin promising a way to unlock total cooperation while amplifying your own smarts. He starts with a radical idea. Make others feel your problem is theirs, and they'll go all out for you. It's not about barking orders, but inviting participation, turning solo struggles into team triumphs. Giblin frames this as participative management, a concept he saw transform businesses and homes alike. Cooperation, he insists, isn't forced, it's cultivated. He brings this to life with Charlie McCormick's story at McCormick & Company. Facing stagnant sales under rigid old-school management, Charlie launched a junior board of young workers to suggest ideas. One proposed a new spice blend, cinnamon sugar, that flew off shelves. Of 5,000 ideas, 99% were adopted, rocketing sales from $3.5 million to $50 million annually. Morale soared, too. As workers felt ownership, 13 of the 17 senior board members rose from these ranks. Giblin contrasts this with Uncle Will's iron-fisted reign, which capped growth, proving brains plus brawn beat brawn alone. In the home, Giblin applies the same logic. He describes a mother nagging her son to mow the lawn, getting grumbles, versus one who asked, "How should we tackle the yard this weekend?" The boy pitched in eagerly, feeling it was his call. Participation breeds investment. Giblin calls it multiplying your brain power. Why solve alone when others' minds can amplify yours tenfold? He cites an Army colonel who, as a teen, won a West Point slot by asking prominent men, "If you were me, how'd you get in?" Their advice and help made his dream theirs, securing his future. To get support for your ideas, Giblin advises drawing others in. Instead of pleading, "Back me up," try, "If you were pitching this, how'd you sell it?" He shares how a writer snagged interviews with elusive big shots by saying, "Everyone says you're the expert. What's your take?" The flattery and inclusion open doors. Setting up a brain trust is key. Giblin knew a sawmill owner who tapped illiterate workers' know-how, later applying it to banking and retail, crediting their ideas for his wealth. Asking, "What's your opinion?" not only nets solutions but flatters, warming others to you. The magic secret, Giblin warns, hinges on intent. A winner asking advice seeks pity, not answers, and repels, unlike the genuine seeker who gains allies. His meat in the coconut sums it: share the problem, invite ideas, use others' brains, and mean it. Picture a team lead facing a deadline. Rather than dictating, she asks, "How can we hit this together?" Hands shoot up, solutions pour in, and the job's done, all because she made it ours. Chapter 12. How to get others to go all out for you. Les Giblin opens Chapter 12 with a bold assertion: praise is a miracle worker that can inspire people to surpass their own limits for you. He frames it as more than flattery. It's a sincere, strategic tool that taps into the human hunger for recognition, a thread woven through the book since Chapter 2's ego-feeding lessons. Giblin promises that mastering praise doesn't just boost others. It makes you a magnet for effort and loyalty, whether you're a boss, parent, or friend. He starts with a striking example: a factory worker who slacked off until his supervisor, fed up with scolding, tried a new tack. Spotting a rare good day, the supervisor said, "Joe, that batch you turned out was top-notch. Shows what you can do." Joe beamed, and the next week, his output doubled, his attitude transformed. Giblin explains this as praise's alchemy. It feeds self-esteem, turning "I can't" into "I will." He contrasts this with punishment's limits. A whipped dog cowers, but a patted one wags its tail. People, too, thrive on the pat. Giblin warns against stinginess with praise, a trap many fall into. He recalls a sales manager who rarely commended his team, assuming paychecks were enough. Sales lagged until a rival poached his best reps with kind words. Praise, Giblin insists, is a cheap investment with massive returns. He shares a personal story, complimenting a waiter's quick service. "You're a pro at this." Not only got a grin but a free dessert, proving goodwill pays dividends. Even small doses work wonders. Telling a kid, "You nailed that catch," can spark a season of hustle. The key, he says, is sincerity and specificity. Vague, "Nice job" falls flat. "I love how you handled that client's curveball" hits home. Giblin cites a homemaker who revived her husband's DIY spirit by praising a wonky shelf. "You figured that out like an engineer," prompting a flurry of projects. He ties this to timing, too. Praise in the moment, like a coach cheering a rookie's first goal, cements its power. And it's contagious. A praised worker lifts the team, as Giblin saw in a shop where one great work sparked a productivity wave. His points to remember distill it. Everyone craves praise. It's free, it inspires effort, and it's your leverage to get others going all out. Picture a teacher struggling with a quiet class. She praises a shy student's answer. That's a sharp insight. And soon, hands shoot up, eager to shine. Giblin's narrative casts praise as a spark that lights fires of enthusiasm, proving it's not soft, it's smart. Chapter 13. How to tell people off without making enemies. Chapter 13 tackles the flip side, criticism, a minefield where one wrong step can blow up relationships. Giblin admits it's unavoidable. People err, and you must correct, but he promises a way to do it without drawing blood. He calls it constructive correction, a science-backed approach that keeps goodwill intact. Drawing from his human relations clinics, he's seen criticism sour deals and friendships, yet also mend them when done right. The goal? Fix the fault, not the person. He begins with a vivid contrast. A boss who yells, "You botched this report," breeds resentment, while one who says, "This needs a tweak, let's polish it together," builds trust. Giblin shares a story from his own life. A colleague once submitted sloppy work, and instead of snapping, he said, "You're better than this. How can we sharpen it?" The colleague stepped up, grateful for the nudge, not the lash. Science supports this, he notes. Studies show criticized egos dig in, but guided ones adapt. Giblin offers 7 rules to master this art. First, criticize in private. He recalls a manager who chewed out a clerk in front of peers. Humiliation fueled a grudge, versus one who pulled her aside, keeping dignity intact. Second, start with praise. A pilot friend taught him this. Praising a trainee's smooth takeoff before noting a bumpy landing softened the sting. Third, criticize the act, not the person. Saying, "This layout's off," beats, "You're careless." Giblin saw it work with a printer who fixed a job cheerfully when the fault, not his worth, was flagged. Fourth, offer a solution. He tells of a cook whose salty stew got. Next time, a pinch less salt might do it. Not just a complaint. Dinner improved, no feathers ruffled. Fifth, ask for cooperation. A teacher swapped "stop talking" for "can you help me keep it quiet?" Kids complied, feeling enlisted. Sixth, criticize only once. Giblin warns against nagging. Once a neighbor overwatered plants, he suggested, they might need less, and left it. The hint stuck. Seventh, end on a friendly note. After fixing a typo, he'd grin. "You're still my go-to writer," harmony restored. These rules, Giblin's Chapter 13 in brief, confirms, make criticism a tool, not a weapon. Correct the error, preserve the bond. He ties it to aviation. A tower guides a pilot off a wrong heading with calm precision, not insults, and both land safely. Imagine a parent with a messy teen. Not, "You're a slob," but "Love your energy, can we tidy this together?" The room's clean, the kid's still smiling. Giblin's narrative paints criticism as an art of finesse, not force. Chapter 14. How to use your human relations action plan. Les Giblin opens Chapter 14 with a call to arms. Reading his book is just the start. All change comes from doing. He frames this final chapter as a workbook, a blueprint to turn his human relations wisdom into tangible results. After 13 chapters of insights, from ego feeding to praise, Giblin now hands us the reins, insisting that success and happiness hinge on action, not theory. His tone is both encouraging and insistent, like a coach rallying a team before the big game. You've got the playbook, now run the plays. He begins with a stark truth. Most people finish self-help books, not approvingly, then shelve them, unchanged. Giblin's seen it in his clinics. Folks marvel at his ideas, but falter without follow-through. To counter this, he offers a structured plan, rooted in 2 questions. Where am I now? And where do I want to be? He likens it to a pilot charting a course. Know your starting point and destination, then navigate. The workbook, he promises, is your compass, turning vague hopes into concrete steps. The first step is self-analysis, and Giblin provides a checklist to spotlight your human relations habits. He lists traits like, do I interrupt others? Or am I quick to criticize? And urges brutal honesty. He shares a personal example. Years back, he rated himself, wincing at impatient listener, a flaw he'd missed until a friend's gentle hint. Scoring low there, he vowed to change, practicing Chapter 9's listening rules daily. Within weeks, colleagues noticed his new attentiveness, and rapport deepened. The checklist, he says, isn't judgment. It's a mirror, showing where you shine and stumble. Next, Giblin introduces the Human Relations Action Plan, a 3-column chart to tackle specific problems. Column 1, the situation, name the issue. Column 2, what I'm going to do, pick a fix from the book. Column 3, results, track progress weekly. He illustrates with a salesman from his clinics, frustrated by a cold boss. In situation, he wrote, boss ignores my ideas. For what I'm going to do, he chose Chapter 11's participative approach. Ask his opinion on my next pitch. After a week, results read. He listened, even suggested tweaks, warming up. By month's end, they were collaborators, not combatants. Giblin stresses picking one problem at a time. Focus beats scattershot. He recalls a mother overwhelmed by a defiant teen. She listed son won't clean his room, then applied Chapter 12's praise. Caught him tidying once and said, you're a natural at this. A week later, she noted, he's tidying more, grumbled less. Small wins, Giblin argues, build momentum. He suggests a notebook for this. Scribble issues like shy at parties, try Chapter 7's smile, or team slacks off, use Chapter 12's praise. Then review weekly, tweaking as you go. The chapter doubles as a review, nudging you to revisit earlier gems. Struggling with arguments? Flip to Chapter 10's 6 rules. Want cooperation? Chapter 11's brain trust awaits. Giblin shares how he once used this himself, targeting tense client meetings. He blended Chapter 8's happy talk. We'll crack this together. With Chapter 13's criticism rules, gently correcting a client's error. Results? Client relaxed, signed the deal. The book, he insists, is a toolbox. Chapter 14 shows you how to wield it. Giblin wraps with a pep talk. Don't just read, act, and finish the book yourself. He cites a clinic grad who transformed a rocky marriage by listing wife feels ignored, applying Chapter 6's AAA, acceptance, approval, appreciation, and noting, she's smiling more, talked for hours last night. The plan's power lies in its simplicity. Diagnose, apply, track, repeat. His Chapter 14 in brief seals it. Assess yourself, chart a course, use the book's tools, and watch life shift. Imagine a shy clerk today, March 29, 2025, grabbing a notebook. She writes, avoid eye contact with customers, picks Chapter 7's friendliness assumption, and smiles at 10 people daily. A week later, 3 chatted back, less scary. Giblin's narrative turns Chapter 14 into a living workshop. Your problems, his solutions, your victories. It's not a conclusion. It's a launch pad, daring you to make human relations your strength. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and please remember to subscribe to receive notification of upcoming recordings. See you in next video.